Sentinel Mindset.
What's up, everyone? Hope you're having a fantastic day today. We are so super excited to show you this episode because we're going to be up in the sky flying over the region of York. Now, in part one of this episode, we had a chance to speak with Constable Matt Storey, a tactical flight officer with YRP, and we discussed everything he does with the air support unit. We had a chance to see the helicopter's technology in detail, and we had a great tour of the premises. Today, we're going up in the air, and we're going to see firsthand just how valuable this unit is. For those of you listening, around the 20-minute mark, a live call comes into the air, and you're going to witness YRP in their element. Now, we know you guys are all being accustomed to hearing our studio-grade audio. In this episode, because we're in the air, the sound will be coming through the headphones, which will make it sound like we're in a helicopter, because we are. Enjoy, and let's go.
Air 2 call.
Air 2, go ahead.
Can you put us on an upcode, please? Show us en route to the region. So right now we just departed Oshawa. We're going to head westbound. We're going to head out towards York region. So I'm going to start getting set up and listening in on the district air to see what's going on and make sure there's no requests for us.
So Matthew, typically speaking, when you're flying at this speed and you're flying at this distance, what are some things that stand out to you if you're on a pursuit?
A lot of the people don't understand is when you want to drive 200 kilometers an hour, 150, you stand out. So if you think about it, if we're looking over at these cars here traveling westbound, everybody's just doing the limit. They're going about their day-to-day business. And when you start weaving in and out and hitting the gas, you stick out like a sore thumb. And that helps us immensely. We'll ask for things. We'll get vehicle descriptions. We'll get the type, the make, and the model. It helps to be familiar with different car makes. And then we can start either using the camera or looking out the window to try and find them.
You hear a lot of people say things like laser pointers, that you're never supposed to point them in the sky. Has that ever happened to you where someone's pointed a laser into the helicopter?
It has, and we've tried to raise awareness about it. Think of it as having a very powerful light shine in your face when you have that brightness that comes from it. That's what happens when people shoot laser pointers at aircraft. And now imagine as a pilot in control of an aircraft and now all you can see is a bright flashing light. That can be extremely dangerous, especially if in a critical moment of flight, like thinking of a landing or a takeoff. I've had a number of them shine at Air 2 during our operations. But I mean, the laser works both ways, right? We can follow the laser to the source, and then because we're police officers, we can do something about it. So we can ask for help and get ground units to go in and investigate.
Tell me a little bit about the relationship that you guys have with the ground unit. So, if you notice something that's suspicious, is it simply as just radioing the ground unit to the area and they can find your coordinates and start working on the plan?
That's right. So once we see something in the air that we think we should have a ground unit investigate, we'll go over the air, we'll tell them what we have, and then they can, the ground units can figure out exactly, by telling them where it is, they can figure out who's closest and they can send the appropriate response.
During a patrol, what are you looking for? I mean, you're patrolling the skies, and you have an amazing view of what's down below. Obviously, like pursuits could be things that you're looking for. What are some of the things that you'd be generally looking for in your day-to-day patrols?
Yeah, we want to be in a position to respond to nearly anything. But yeah, anything involving a vehicle. Impaired drivers are a big thing. That's a lot of calls we'll receive about impaired drivers. We'll help investigate them, try to locate them. We want to be really timely if somebody's, say their elderly mother walks away, they'll start airing the address. We'll head right there and we'll try to check those hazard areas, things that might be a danger to them, so that we can find them in the kind of the soonest possible time. But we want to mitigate the risk of when people are running from the police, or for whatever reason. That's a very dangerous situation, and we're trying to mitigate that.
Can you think of a story that you can share of something that you noticed from above during your patrol that you were able to successfully, detain an individual or avert a crime from happening? And you don't have to be specific on any details, but does anything cross your mind?
But we've had some recent ones that have been with stunt driving. People who are traveling high rates of speed, they're weaving in and out of traffic, they're driving dangerously. That's something that sticks out for us, and we've called units in to help out. And sometimes I've found impaired drivers that way, which is a big public safety risk, so that's always rewarding to take somebody like that off the road.
Another thing that we're facing right now is a lot of theft for vehicles. Do you ever get called in for stuff like that when vehicles are stolen?
Yeah, we can help out with those. We can follow vehicles that have been stolen. We've especially had situations where we have what's called automated license plate recognition. So our cruisers can get teed up that, hey, there's a stolen vehicle in the area. They can ask for our help. We can follow that vehicle and we can investigate it further. We can avoid the whole pursuit situation, because if that person wants to take off, that's going to be a risk to the public. So instead, we'll keep an eye on them and we'll coordinate resources so that we can make an arrest, and hopefully that person had no idea that the police were there until all of a sudden there's a tactical guy right next to them. We've intervened in thefts of vehicles that are just occurring. That's especially rewarding because they haven't even had the opportunity to take the car somewhere and get rid of it, and we've already recovered it the same night.
What would you say right now the speed that we're going at? Because I'm looking at the vehicles on the highway, and it seems that we're going faster.
Yeah, we're going over 100 knots. It's almost 200 kilometers an hour when you get up to about 120, 130. 100 knots, we're probably going around 180.
Do you find that there's more activity for you guys when you're patrolling at nighttime, or is it pretty much a balance of just days and nights?
There always seems to be more going on at night, but it doesn't really matter sometimes. Sometimes you can think you're having a slow day, and all of a sudden a big call comes in, and it's a really big one that requires a lot of work and a lot of resources. Think of like a commercial bank robbery. Those don't come in often at night. They're just based on bankers' hours.
So, typically speaking, with York, they do 4 on, 4 off on a rotation. Do you have that same sort of 12-hour rotation as well?
We're similar. We don't follow the specific platoons, but we'll work a 10-hour shift. Then we do days and night shifts.
So, Matthew, why don't you tell me, man, I'm very curious as to how you ended up in this unit. Has this always been a desire for you to be in, doing something on this level with policing? I know you've had a career for 17 years. Maybe you want to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've always wanted to kind of serve others, help my community, ever since I was a kid. And that was something that got me into police work. Being able to help people was really rewarding. And then coming into the aviation unit, to be in a position where now I can help out on really big calls, and I can put in some pretty hairy situations, and I can kind of quarterback those and come out to a safe resolution. I mean, that's really rewarding.
How long have you? I know you've had a career for 17 years. Have they all been with York?
No, I started my career with the RCMP. And I was out in BC, and I worked in a small detachment for 5 years. And then I stuck with the RCMP into a financial crime unit. But family circumstances brought me back. Grew up in York Region, so they brought me back here. And I made the switch to York Region because it allowed me to do all the extra duties that York Region offers, like the aviation unit, for example. I could stay in one house and I could take advantage of all the different units and sections that York has. Whereas if I wanted to do this for an organization like the RCMP, I'd have to move somewhere where I'm just kind of frankly not willing to go anymore.
So tell me, because I know a lot of people, and we have many viewers that want to jump into a police service. What's it like working with York? Because from all the stuff that we've done with all the officers, we hear nothing but incredible feedback. What's your perspective?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I agree with a lot of the other officers that work in York. The big difference is York Region, they have a very people-first kind of focus. And I really noticed it with the officers that they put out on the street and how they make sure you've always got people with you. If you need help for anything, there's always people available to help you out. If you have questions, somebody can answer them for you. I remember kind of my very first dynamic call in York involving somebody basically abducting somebody with a firearm. And I was the first person to start dealing with that. And in no time at all, I've had officers next to me that I don't even know who they are. They're just a New York regional police officer, but they heard the call and they came to help, and I had tons of people helping me in no time at all.
We're always speaking about, what it takes to be a police officer and what the services look for, when they want to get into the service. What are, in your opinion, Matthew, some qualities that people should be working on if they want to get into policing?
I think you have to look at what motivates you into police work. There's a lot of advantages. It's very dynamic. Every day is different. But your base motivation, why do you want to become a police officer? And for me, it was to help people, and there's so many opportunities for that I get that rewards that for me. I get that little bit of dopamine from it, and then it helps me move on.
So for yourself, what do you do to prepare for a shift? I mean, I know you have your checklist, the roll call of what you got to do. For you, is it important to have a really good sleep before you come to work? What's your routine?
Yeah, for me, being well rested is a big part of it. Trying to stay physically active. I like to run. But also, especially in an aviation industry, you got to be well rested. You got to take the time to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you're coming to work and you're ready to go.
So physical fitness is a big part of policing. To me, it's all across the board, not only what you do at the gym, but also your diet and your sleep, your rest, the whole 9 yards. What advice would you give people, again, Matthew, looking to enter into this world that wants to get into policing from a physical standpoint? What would be some recommendations you'd give them?
I would say there's a whole variety of things you can do to be physically fit. I think you just have to be disciplined about it. Set yourself a schedule, how whatever it's going to be, and just stick to it. I think that's the biggest thing for that. Once you've set your goal to say, this is what I want to do, this is where I have to be to get there, I think that helps. And then just having the discipline to make sure you stick to it so that you reach that goal.
I'm wondering if you could tell me, your relationship with the pilot and how you guys work together. You touched upon it when we were on land. Can you maybe just give us a little bit of what your relationship would be above ground?
Yes, when we're up here, we're working as a team. The aviation industry, they refer to it as crew resource management. But we talk to each other. If we see something, we'll say it. If we hear something from the pilot, I'll acknowledge it, and vice versa. And if I don't understand something, I'm going to ask. And then it's the same goes if the pilot's not sure what I want, there's no ambiguity about it, they're going to ask, so that we're both on the same page, and we work off each other. There's also just a degree of trust involved as well.
For medicals, are you ever in a situation where medicals, you have to pick someone up to take them to a hospital, or is that another type of service provided by, first responders?
Well, we're in the province of Ontario. So if you have a medical patient and it's going to be transferred, it's going to be through Orange, they'll do that. If you have somebody that needs to be airlifted from somewhere, it's actually the military that'll handle that. If you actually think to the flooding that just occurred, they actually had the military came from Trenton and they airlifted somebody off one of the small islands that they were stranded.
Wow. By the way, when that happened, did you notice anything from above the ground that was troublesome? Because that was kind of crazy, that flooding that we had.
Yeah, I got to avoid it here. We were out in the airport and we noticed the rain. That was for sure. In a situation like that, we had to keep an eye on the weather to know when we could go and when we had to hold off.
So typically speaking, I know we talked a little bit about when it could be snowing, and if it's the low visibility, you really wouldn't come up with a helicopter. Is there a difference with rain? Like if it's raining, like a mild rain, would you guys still take to the skies?
It all just depends on what you can see. If you just imagine if you go up here and you can't, there's minimums obviously to fly legally, but also if you just can't see out the windows, there's no point going up, because that's kind of why we're here, right?
I'll tell you this, looking at the view from the top, you always hear, like listening to 680 News, you'll hear, for example, like, the weather, the traffic reports. You guys truly have an incredible view up here of the highways.
Yeah, it's really something.
So Matthew, what would be the typical, like the most common call that you would get from dispatch? If you were it was all quiet here, something came in.
I think the most common one for the helicopter is the impaired drivers. I think that's the thing that comes up the most frequently. When you have other motorists especially calling in the impaired drivers, that's where we can help out. We can locate them and help coordinate the ground units to stop them faster, and then also gather evidence at the same time.
Okay, how many units does York have? Is it one?
Yeah, it's we each have one helicopter.
What are typically the values of helicopters? Like, this one's obviously a little maxed out with all the equipment you have on there, but where do they range?
Like a dollar figure?
Yeah, just curious.
This one, with everything brand new, is about $6 million.
Okay.
So what they do is they kind of look at it, how long is a helicopter going to last? 15, 20 years? So they divide that amount amongst those years that they're going to run the helicopter, and that's how they kind of say, this is how much we're going to spend per year, and then what are we going to get out of it? We talk a helicopter as a force multiplier. So if we have somebody and we want to check for somebody, and we'll use this example because we do it all the time, but this field down here south of the 407, if I want to do a search for there, I can use this helicopter and I can cover off an incredible search area in a very small amount of time versus what it would take units on the ground to do. And that's where you get that advantage of finding the person faster and then also not having to spend as many police resources to do it.
And typically speaking, what is the cost of fuel a helicopter?
That's a good question. What do you think?
The fuel?
Yeah.
I have no clue. More than a Jeep.
Yeah. A full tank will run you up $700-800, I think. That's jet fuel. It's a turbine engine. That takes jet fuel, yeah.
Matthew, can you speak a little bit about your reporting? So it's very, very common for police officers to use notebooks or reporting continuously. What's it like in the aviation side? Are you having to document regularly?
Yeah, as police officers, we'll make our notes just like every other officer.
Okay. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to land the helicopter outside of the airfield?
We can do that. As part of a police operation, we're able to do that, but we don't do it often because there's risks inherent with that. I've never been in a situation like an emergency where we've had to do that, no. But I have landed off-site where we've gone, especially during missing person investigations, we've landed off-site to meet up with the command post, or to pick up somebody to help assist with the search, and then we've taken off from there. But there's a lot of factors involved. You have to make sure it's a safe place to do it. You have to make sure you're not going to be a distraction to people around when you land, so you can't do it next to a busy highway, for example. And then also you just want to be neighborly about it and not be landing somewhere where it's going to affect somebody's quality of life in their house, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's good. Let me ask you this. So typically speaking, many people when they're driving, they're using Google Maps or Waze to kind of navigate and get around. When you're flying in the skies, when you look at this, you've done this so often right now, can you just look at everything like you would on the ground? Like, is it that normal for you now? Did it take a lot to get adjusted to?
It helps to have a good knowledge of the region. And working here for as long as I have, I like to think I have a good grasp of the major routes. But when it comes to mapping systems, we have what we call an augmented reality system. So on top of the camera, it'll give me the names of streets, and I can type in addresses, and it'll put it on the camera for me, and I can slave the camera to that address. So I may not know every little side street, but if I type in an address, the camera can tell me where it is in relation to the aircraft, and we can head over there.
Well, is that how new is that technology?
It has been around for more than a decade, I think. In the early days of the unit, it was a map book in their lab, and then relying again on that knowledge of the region. Now we still every so often have software issues, and maybe the mapping system doesn't want to work that day, so we still fall back on that. But it's really helps us just kind of increase the efficiency, so we're not wasting time trying to find somewhere. We can locate it right away and head straight there.
Are we going still? No?
They're going to have us go up to Newmarket for something.
Okay. I'll do my comms and all.
Roger.
Okay, so are we in the middle of a call right now, Matthew? That we're attending a call?
Yeah, we're just going to see what they're looking for.
So we're just checking the north side of Kennedy and Davis. So the next unit, if they can start checking the south side, please. Is the radius changed, or are we still at 1,600 meters?
All right, so what you're about to hear right now is an actual call coming into the Air Tactical Support Unit. We were just getting ready to go back to Oshawa, and then suddenly, bam, this call came in. And what you're about to hear right now is dispatch communicating with the Air Support Unit as they're trying to pursue a vehicle that has been called in.
Can you show us en route? Can you just go with the details for me, please? Well, it's a call for somebody who's either despondent, somebody who's a person in crisis. And we're just trying to track down their location, and they believe they might be in a vehicle, so they're asking for our help to see if we can get a good eye of the roads there and see if we can find them.
How far away from the call would you say we are right now?
We're about 16 nautical miles. So that's kind of an aviation unit of measurement. It's going to be about 8 minutes. And that's kind of the nature of our unit. You never really know what you're going to end up with.
So when you see this vehicle, you're just going to basically, or if you see it, then you're just going to alert the patrol on the ground to the location.
That's right, just in case it's in a spot, and maybe the patrol officer can't see it. It's mobile when we find it. We'll try and we'll keep them updated on where it is. If it's parked somewhere, we'll direct the units to them. Or if the units find it on their own before we even get there, then the job's done and we don't have to worry about it.
For yourself, Matthew, what's your preference when you're touring the skies? Do you prefer the day because you can see more? Is it as beautiful as night, seeing all the light?
I like the night shifts. Flying at nights, it's nicer in general. It's not as scenic, but you get the lights. You get usually the weather's calmer, the air's a little easier. But also what goes on at night is a lot different from what goes on at the day, and I think a lot of the night calls are really the bread and butter for the helicopter. Things like people breaking into cars, impaired drivers, people taking off from the police. It happens all the time, but it also happens, I think, more often at night.
When the helicopter's flying at night, typically speaking, do you have all the lights on? Or are they off so you can have like a stealth mode kind of thing?
No, we'll fly, you gotta fly according to the aviation regulations. Kind of like the whisper kind of stealth mode stuff's kind of something of the movies. But the way you can fly, it's easy. It's easy to fly in a way that if you don't want to be seen, the person you're following is not going to know that you're there. We got Davis Drive and Kennedy. It's still hidden with the trees, but it's going to be up here. They're not sure yet, so they're going to wait for a second update on the location, and then we'll see if it's changed and what direction it went. So we're basically going to go to the area and check out to see if the person's either still there, or maybe they parked their car somewhere and left it. That can at least give the searchers kind of a starting point. But we're also waiting to see if there's any updates on a new location to see if they're still moving.
What's the call? Is it a distress?
Yeah, person in crisis. So I've got, there's a jack there that's labeled with a label. So when we do training, we put the trainer into that, and then that way there's a foot pedal down here.
Okay.
They use that foot pedal, and then they can talk to dispatch.
Oh, okay, cool.
So Kennedy Davis is going to be this one here. He will do a couple orbits here and just see if there's anything that looks off. But there's not going to be a lot of spots in the area to park, except for the York Region Forest just to the north here. My guess is this person's transiting through. And when we get an update, it might be somewhere else entirely. Here, 2 hit negative results at the York Region Forest parking lot there to the north. There's the patrol supervisor down there.
You got an eye for this, Matthew. The fact that you can kind of pick these things so easily.
Yeah, it comes with practice, but you know, once the kind of wonder wears off and you're just up here just having a great time, you get really good at it. But that's something we want to kind of press, is we don't want to have guys and girls come up here to fly in a helicopter and just be there for the show.
And you checked a pickup truck here in my 3 o'clock. Looks like a black one. Roger.
Part of the mandate of air support is we want to be effective and we also want to be efficient. So we always have to kind of keep that in mind while we're working a call. At what point have we exhausted all our avenues? And where else might we be a better help? So at some point you just have to say, we didn't have any success here, and we're going to have to call it. I mean, this road on Davis, there's not a lot of spots where you would just pull over naturally if you weren't from the area, especially.
So typically speaking, when now you're in search for this vehicle, basically you'll be continue searching for it until you have either located it or you get called off for whatever reason.
Yeah, either we've located the car or we've got some information that it's not going to be in the area. Or I guess the third would be we've done a nice thorough search and we're satisfied that it's not here.
So tell me a little bit about the way the helicopter maneuvers. I mean, for those that are watching and listening, it seems like it can effortlessly make any directional move. But are you paying attention to how fast your turns are, for example, or like what's the ease of navigating a helicopter?
Well, it's you want to position it so that if you see, I'm looking out the window because that's giving me the biggest picture of what's around. So we're flying the helicopter so that I can get that good look out the window. So when we're doing our orbits and we're doing our maneuvers, we're always kind of keeping that in mind, that we want to be able to maintain the best view of what's going on.
With planes, you face turbulence when you get too high up or certain clouds. Do you ever have turbulence with winds on a helicopter at 1,000 feet altitude?
You can. The winds can have an effect on you. What you'll find is with the helicopter, you think of the rotor disc. It kind of acts as a huge gyroscope, but it keeps it very stable. So while it's still a factor, helicopters are actually very stable when they're flying through the air.
I'm seeing off your screens how close your cameras can get on the vehicles. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so you look, you'll see this unit's coming up into the area. So I can zoom right in and get a good view.
Wow.
I mean, this helps, especially if I'm trying to direct ground units. I can read the decals on the roof, which is exactly what they're for. But I can say if there's a unit coming into the area, hey, for this vehicle, this is where that person is, or this is where you need to go.
I was getting an update here from OPP, advised they're on the phone with this male in Aurora, just waiting for an update to see if they want us to go and check on him.
That's great. Can we get an Aurora car to start going that way in case he decides to take off, and then the other cars appear to clear?
And Air 2, we'll head over to drive there. So I'm guessing he was going westbound through that intersection. Now he's made it down to Aurora here.
PS-16, great news. Clear everybody. Thank you.
10-4, all units can clear.
And Air 2 copies. Can you clear us 10-8? Show us en route back to Oshawa for fuel, please.
10-4, thanks for the assist.
Mission complete.
Yeah, that one worked out.
I'm really glad that we got to see, in your element, what you do, guys. That was really good, guys. Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Matt, can you tell me, are you ever in a situation where you're asked to fly out of the geography or out of the zone of York Region?
Yeah, we'll help out quite a bit. We'll go into Toronto. We'll help out in Durham. We've gone to Peel, and sometimes, especially with the big organized investigations, with these, like, the carjackers and things like that, they're not limited to the regions, right? So they'll go all over the place. In all the different police services, they'll ask for our help, and we'll help them out, no problem. I've been involved in, there's a big one in Toronto called Project Taurus, and it was back in 2020, I believe. But it was big organized carjacking. They stole a Lamborghini. Unfortunately, the owner was able to track it, and we found it, and we followed it, and they switched to different cars, and Toronto police, we helped them out. They ended up doing a big takedown of it. It was nice to see the Air 2 footage and the press release for that.
How difficult is it to get on to this unit? Like, is there like a waiting list for people wanting to get on?
We do kind of a selection process. So we ask around who's interested in going. We offer an information session so that those officers can go meet with us. We'll talk about the unit, what we do, what our schedule's like, what the work is involved, or what work is involved. After the info session, we'll have they have to actually do a full application and interview with our supervisors to see if they are interested in it, and they kind of have a grasp of what we do. They've been proactive to kind of find out. And then we do an actual selection process. So once they pass the interview, they'll come up to us, we'll do a flight test, and we'll give them judgment scenarios. And it's nothing that you have to have been in the helicopter before to be able to figure out, but it's just, we'll give them a bunch of different scenarios with different kind of calls, and we want to see how they react to it. And if they can complete the flight test, we'll actually bring them on to an orientation, which is a week-long course, and we just keep them up with the scenarios. And then after that, once they've finished all that, they actually start a 2-month. We bring them into the unit temporarily for 2 months, and we load them up on a course. And so we do our in-house training. We send them out on calls with the trainers. And then we also run scenarios when we're not on calls. And after 2 months, they can get signed off to operate in the aircraft.
So once you're an actual tactical flight officer, do you have to maintain yearly training?
You do. We do quarterly training days. And then we also, when you're first selected and become a tactical flight officer, you work part-time, so you're an alternate. You're not a full-time member of the unit. And you have to come in at least once a month and keep your skills proficient. And then you go through all the kind of refresher training we do. And there's other parts to the unit. We fly remotely piloted aircraft like drones.
Right.
Under the regulations, we call them RPAs, so we all get qualified to do that. So in case the situation where the helicopter is not available, we can still put something up in the air to help out. And then we also do, we draw full-time members from our pool of alternates. So when somebody's moved on and they've left the unit, or if they've been promoted or whichever, and they're no longer a TFO, we'll bring somebody from all alternates to come in and fill that spot. And then we'll go out, we'll do another selection for more alternates. Can you show us en route to Oshawa for fuel, please?
Matt, can you tell us what that was about? Like, just curious, because you're asking to be put en route. Is that more or less to make sure you're on the right flight path?
Yeah, and it lets people know what we're up to. But also we have dispatchers keeping an eye out for us. So that while we're up here, they're keeping track of what we're doing and what we're up to. And then also, just for a worst case scenario, if we suddenly stop talking to them, they'll know something's up. And so they'll start helping look for us. So that's just in a situation where maybe our radios go out, or we had a mechanical issue and we had to land somewhere. We didn't have time to tell them exactly where we were. But also for going back to our record keeping, it just tells them, they put that into our logs so that at the end of the day I can figure out exactly what I did for my notes. Because I need the dispatchers will do it for me, because I'm obviously busy with the aircraft.
Matthew, what's the fastest that a helicopter can go? I know you said we were probably at around 200 kilometers an hour. Is there like a max speed that they can go?
We do about 130 knots, which is about 225 kilometers per hour. Mostly because we have stuff hanging off the helicopter that we don't want to go too much faster. But we also travel as the crow flies, right? So we're not following the roads or anything like that. So we're able to make up time by going directly to places. Here, 1 sec for the landing traffic here.
And that's going to be a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this episode today as we have toured the skies with York Regional Police. A very big thank you to them for allowing us to have this opportunity. We hope you've enjoyed everything. For those of you looking to join York Regional Police, visit www.yrp.ca. Have a great day, everyone, and enjoy the skies. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast, or guests you would like me to consider on the Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative supports, Jaslyn Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.